I entered a novel, but it wasn't by choice. I stepped outside and got hit by a truck. Damn thing made me restart my life. Being rebooted inside the novel was pretty depressing. The stingy system only gave me 20,000 yuan. Then it ordered me to save the young and helpless female villain, Shen. So I spent 19,800 yuan to save her, then spent 12 years raising her into a gentle, elegant, and kind female CEO. Love really can put flesh on your bones. Poor little Shen went from weighing under 80 pounds to over 120 pounds as an adult, and I played no small part in that. Watching her thrive in the sunlight, I thought I could finally rest easy. Thanks you. Wake up. Half asleep, I heard Shen Bai's soft call. Before my mind had even cleared, a warm, tingling sensation reached my ear first. Hey. What are you doing? Why are you blowing warm air into my ear again? My sleepiness faded. I rolled over and tried to get up. She suddenly clamped her mouth around my ear, startling me so badly I nearly slid to my knees. Shen Bai was dressed neatly, squatting with her chin propped in both hands, watching me, sprawled on the floor, with a beaming smile. She was already a powerful boss who could handle everything herself, yet her eyes still sparkled with sly mischief. Like a child, had I spoiled her by taking such good care of her? Shen Bai was becoming more and more like a little fox. I crooked my mouth and stared her down. What are you staring at? Want to have a showdown? She nodded, then shook her head. She spread my palm open with one finger and made me kneel on one knee. Then she placed one hand in my palm. Her eyes curved like crescent moons. I do. Huh. You do. Like hell you do. I haven't even said anything yet. I brushed her hand aside. She was displeased again. Whenever she was unhappy, she glared at me. Her big eyes spun around mischievously, and she gave a soft huff. Then she immediately wrapped her arms around my neck and started biting the base of my ear. Fine, next time, skip the whole routine. Just bite me right away, okay? Why add so much drama every day? Well, it is strangely fresh when you change it up every time. Oh, dear Lord. Don't bite so hard. Easy, easy. I can't take it. Actually, as Shen Bai's personal assistant, your humble narrator had a very easy job. Apart from organizing important documents and handling odd jobs, there really wasn't much else to do. After all, she had more than one assistant. Other people handled everything else. I just wanted to be a lazy slacker. When I helped her establish the company, I'd already suffered all the hardships I was meant to endure in this life. The rest of my life was for enjoying myself. I had to look at delicious food and do something fun. Hey. Look at this. 9 tern intestines, canned herring, and spicy lamb testicles. I don't eat any of them. Just watching other people eat is entertainment enough. Wow. Now that's authentic. Shen Bai knew all about my slacking, and always had. My desk was right beside hers, so nothing escaped her sharp eyes. Sometimes, I'd secretly tweak my aim, and whenever she noticed, she'd give me a knowing smile. As the company boss, Shen Bai treated people gently, but never lacked an iron fist. She acted quietly, yet whenever she moved, victory was guaranteed. She was also excellent at exploiting conflicts between employees and making them restrain one another. She was truly terrifying. No wonder she was such a deep and calculating female villain. Young in years, yet somehow already ancient. Even I could probably only beat her by the narrowest margin. I worked until for this afternoon. There was genuinely nothing left to do at the office, so I went home early to make dinner. As usual, I made 3 dishes and a soup, including her favorite scrambled eggs with tomatoes. At 5:30, Shen Bai arrived home right on time. She didn't even remove her high heels in the entryway. Before repeatedly calling my name, I came out of the kitchen wearing a puppy apron, a spatula in my hand, and raised an eyebrow at her. You're home. Are you tired? Her lips parted, her captivating, peach blossom eyes brimmed with laughter. She complained while taking off her shoes and tossing aside her socks. I'm home. I just signed a $1,000,000 deal. I'm exhausted. You worked hard. Wash up and come eat. I made your favorite scrambled eggs tonight. Great. She draped herself over me, demanding a hug. She rose onto her toes and buried her whole face in the hollow of my neck. Her little nose sniffed everywhere. I tilted my head back and gently pushed her away. She whined and hugged me even tighter. Then she clung to me like a sloth. For crying out loud. How old are you? You're over 20 and still want to be carried. Aren't you embarrassed? Don't do this. I genuinely had no way to deal with her. She latched onto my left leg like an accessory, forcing me to limp over to the dining table. That evening, she devoured the entire plate of scrambled eggs with tomatoes, along with half a plate of shrimp I'd peeled. She didn't touch the green peppers. If she wanted to be picky, so be it. What could I do? After all, President Shen signed my paychecks. My teeth weren't what they used to be, so I might as well live off little Shen Bai. I watched her lounge on the sofa, patting her stuffed belly. After washing the dishes, I thought it over for a long time before speaking. Shen Bai, I've been thinking of taking a trip soon. That's a good thing. Where are you planning to go? When are you leaving? She sat up on the sofa, her bare feet crossed into a little circle, looking interested. I haven't gone anywhere in ages either. There are piles of nonsense at the company every day. It's driving me crazy. This is the perfect time for us to get away and loosen up. Oh well, this time I want to travel alone. Her smile froze instantly. She asked again in disbelief. What? I want to take a trip by myself. Shen lifted her chin. She narrowed her eyes, her smile turning dark and sinister, sending a chill through me. Fangs you. Have I been too nice to you? Now you're cheating on me without even hiding it? Cheating with who? There's no one. No one. You pay me 20,000 yuan a month. I have to hand 15,000 of it back to you. And after utilities and groceries come out of the remaining 5,000. How many coins do you think I have left? How could I afford to find someone else? I only do that because I'm afraid you'll waste your money. I'm saving it for you. It's your marriage fund for later. Understand? I know. But Shen, use that tiny little brain of yours and think. I've been by your side for 12 years. I worked myself to the bone raising you. After all these years of hard work, I'm tired now. Can I have a little personal space? She lowered her head and finally relented after a long silence. Fine. I'll transfer 20,000 yuan to you first. Ask me for more if it isn't enough. How long will you be gone? A month? What do you mean? How long? She sprang to her feet. She had to stand on tiptoe to grab my collar. You bastard. HMPH. After a month, you'll probably have a child with some random woman out there. Why not say 10 months? That would give the baby time to be born. So, you could bring it home and make me die of anger. Shen, you're talking absolute nonsense. Careful, or I'll sue you for defamation. Anyway, since you're traveling alone, you only need 2 days. Anything more won't be reimbursed. I was deeply dissatisfied. Where can I go in 2 days? Take a round trip around a city? It has to be a month. I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. If you don't give me money, I'll beg my way across the country. She pouted unhappily, crossed her arms, and said nothing. She paced angrily around the living room. I followed close behind, trying to hold her down. I never expected her to be harder to pin down than a grease pig. I finally managed to catch her, but she twisted her body and slipped right out through my arms. She even gave my flank a painful twist on the way out. The pain made me shriek like a monkey. With no other choice, I had to try a different way to placate her. Hey, Shen, can I just take this one trip? She finally stopped and asked in a sulky voice. You won't go anywhere again? I won't leave again. Not even if I die. She hummed and reluctantly agreed, but demanded that we sleep together tonight. Otherwise, I'd be spending the night in the black room. Faced with her menacing suggestion, I willingly agreed. Our house really did have a black room, but these days, whenever I sleep beside Shen, I feel restless and uncomfortable. First, because she was far too beautiful. She was slim where she should be, and full where she should be. She was seriously well endowed. Even the way she walked had a chic, feminine flair. I was genuinely afraid that one day I might lose control. Second, she was incredibly clingy, not ordinarily clingy either. She liked wrapping her entire body around me. Like an octopus, she clung tightly to my waist and refused to let go of my neck. Back when we were poor, we lived together in a cramped little room built against a wall. There was no air conditioning, so it was already hot. Yet she still clung to me, refusing to let go even after her hair was soaked with sweat. She could wake me 3 times in one night from the heat. That silly girl even gave herself heat stroke. Even more incredible, she still clung fiercely to my neck while suffering from heat stroke. I couldn't pry her off. I was so furious that I had to drag her to the pharmacy for Waxiang janky liquid. After drinking it, she vomited again and covered all my clothes in vomit. I was so angry I actually laughed. While I was changing, she launched another sneak attack. I don't know if she was dreaming about something delicious, but she began gnawing on me like a starving animal. It hurt so badly I nearly danced a disco right there. Even now, I still remember how much it hurt. Sure enough, halfway through the night, she unconsciously wrapped herself around me again. This time, she went even further. She even mumbled something about striking a snake at its weakest point. Was she awake or not? I kicked her out of bed. She shouldn't pin me down and beat me, right? Don't bite my neck. She began biting and licking me. A slimy snake. So tasty. So tasty. If it's human, I'll eat it. Somebody save me. After being tormented until morning, I shed tears of regret. Men need to protect themselves at home, too. Fangs you. Why is your drool all over my hand? It reeks. You're human. I really need to keep you under control. I was like an old camel hauling a rickshaw. Even after being mercilessly abused, I still had to carry my load and keep moving. The male lead of this novel is named Aotian. The female lead is by Ningbing. It's a classic novel where the protagonist rise from the bottom and become invincible. As for the female villain, I don't know what role Shen plays in it. I only know that, at the end of the original story, the 2 leads join forces to defeat Shen. Desperate, she eventually jumps off a cliff to keep Shen from repeating that fate. I've taught her since childhood to avoid trouble and win through psychological advantage. Avoid it if you can. Run if you can't. Even if your opponent is a dog, you still need to watch out for rabies. I don't know whether she took any of it to heart, but I had to find a way to pave her path. Otherwise, with Shen Bayu's current personality, the two leads could kill her with their combined attack before she even knew what hit her. So over the years, I secretly sought out Aotian and helped him several times. I wanted nothing in return, except for him to remember my kindness someday and spare Shen Bayu's life for my sake. After all, a father's love is selfless. Even though I'm only 4 years older than her, I still consider myself her long-lost biological father. This afternoon, I plan to introduce them to each other. Ideally, they'd become good friends on the spot. Outside, Shen Bayu wore a beautiful outfit. She was graceful and elegant, with a poised, statuesque figure. She certainly looked refined, except that, unable to link arms with me, she grew embarrassed and furious, and viciously elbowed me in the rear from behind. Stop elbowing me. What are you poking at? Not long after we reached the private room I'd reserved at the hotel, Aotian arrived laughing, both hands in his pockets. The moment he saw me, he greeted me enthusiastically. Brothers, you. Have you been waiting long? Look at you. I told you it was my treat, good grief. I never thought you'd still end up paying. That's so embarrassing. We bumped fist with both hands. It's fine. We're all friends. Who pays doesn't matter. After we'd exchanged enough pleasantries, I pulled Shen Bayu out from behind me. Brother Aotian, let me introduce you. This is my only family. Her name is Shen Bayu. She's young and inexperienced, so she tends to make mistakes. Please be patient with her. Shen Bayu, say hello. Shen Bayu's face darkened, her expression gloomy. Aotian looked solemn, as if he wanted to speak but stopped himself. Brothers, you. She's your relative. Absolutely. No question about it. When I saw the hatred in their eyes as they stared at each other, I sensed that something was terribly wrong. Oh no, could they have been mortal enemies for years? That useless system only told me the general ending and a tiny bit of the plot. It never said they were natural-born enemies. You to know each other. We had a minor disagreement before, but since she's brother, she's relative. We can leave that unpleasantness behind. What's past is past, after all. Right. President Shen, you wouldn't want to make your big brother angry, would you? They both looked like they had swallowed a mouthful of crap, but they really did make peace. Aotian ate a few bites, then hurriedly left. Before leaving, he hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Watch out for Shen Bayu." I had no idea what he meant. I foolishly said goodbye, then closed the private room door. I was just about to tell Shen Bayu to keep eating when I turned around and was immediately thrown to the floor. Shen Bayu easily pinned me down. She covered my mouth, looking almost deranged. Something was seriously wrong with her. She spoke through clenched teeth. How do you know him? What is your relationship? MMPH. Let go. You're not talking. Feeling tough. I knew it. You were all lying to me. Talk. Or don't you want to? Even after I twist you, you still won't talk. Fine. I'll make sure you can't talk. She began to grin viciously. Her delicate features twisted into a terrifying mask as her emotions spiraled out of control. Before long, she was quietly sobbing again. Tears slid down her deathly pale cheeks like beads spilling from a broken string. Finally, she clung tightly to my neck, her shoulders shaking with relentless sobs. Why? Why do you have to deceive me? She was squeezing so hard that my brain was starved of oxygen. I think I might be dying. In my days, I thought I saw my mother and my old home. Good Lord. Don't let my life flash before my eyes. I summoned all my strength and spat at Shen Bayu's face. It landed squarely between her eyebrows. She finally calmed down and released me. I gasped for air. I hurt so badly I wanted to cry, but she knelt down and cried even louder than I did. I tried to get up, but Shen Bayu's upper body was sprawled across my stomach. I was also afraid she'd fall if I moved. Let the world end already. After lying there helplessly for a while, I silently tightened my arms around her. Shen Bayu wailed in my arms. Every now and then, she even used my left hand as a tissue. Sigh. Fine. We both have it rough. Tell me, what did I lie to you about? Why are you crying? You attacked me out of nowhere, pinched me, and covered my mouth. When did you ever give me a chance to speak? As I spoke, I quietly wiped the snot onto the floor. I truly didn't know whether to hug or throttle Shen Bayu. You're a business owner now. Don't you understand that more friends mean more options? After all the effort I put into introducing you two, what do you think I went to all that trouble for? I only wanted to pave a path for you. I don't know what happened between you two. If it was some childhood squabble, that's perfectly normal. Why carry it all the way to a fight to the death? Shen Bayu buried her entire face in my arms and said nothing. I stroked her head and softened my voice. You've grown up, Shen Bayu. You need to understand. I can't protect you forever. I'm only human. I'll grow old and tired. One day, I'll die too. How can I rest easy when you act like this? If one day I'm lying in a coffin and hear that you're being bullied, I won't be able to rest in peace even in death. Her hands tightened around my sleeves, then slowly loosened. All right, eat a little more. Don't waste it. This meal cost quite a bit. The meal was hardly enjoyable. She barely ate unless I fed her. Of course, whenever I offered her green peppers, she haughtily turned her face away. It wasn't until evening, when I returned to my room to pack, that Shen Buyu followed me in and spoke. Take me with you. No. She lowered her eyes, her long lashes fluttering twice. Fang's you. That's an order. An order won't change my answer. By the way, bring me that t-shirt from the wardrobe. She clicked her tongue reluctantly. Even after bringing me the shirt, she still refused to give up. I can wear dresses for you every day. You can do whatever you want. Don't you like teddy bear patterns? You're touching my childhood books again? Read less. Don't let them corrupt you. To be honest, even if you were Ultraman, the answer would still be no. I ruffled her hair, and she angrily slapped my hand away. Her temper was as explosive as a flashbang grenade. I rubbed my aching eyelids. How about this? I'll sing you that lullaby before bed. You've loved it since you were little, haven't you? Oh my god. She finally stopped making a fuss. The night before I left, I could only sing that old lullaby once more. Shen Buyu lay quietly beside me. One hand held my arm. As she rested her head on my shoulder, her sparkling eyes slowly curved into crescent moons, then gradually closed to the sound of my singing. She slept soundly, but I couldn't tell whether I had slept. Whenever I thought I hadn't, I was already drifting off. Whenever I decided I hadn't slept, I was already drifting off. I tossed and turned. A knot of sorrow lodged in my chest. In the darkness, I reached out and traced her brows, the bridge of her nose, her dimples, and her eyelids. Even though I couldn't see a thing, I could still picture exactly what she looked like now. Her face had grown fuller, and her features had matured. Her palms were broader than they had been as a child. 12 years had passed in the blink of an eye. She had truly grown up. For a flower to bloom, it needs more than water and fertilizer. It needs sunlight too. All I had done was straighten a crooked stem, so she could face the sun. In her sleep, Shen Buyu brushed her cheek against my fingertips. I withdrew my hand and lay still. Sleep, little Shen Buyu. Tomorrow, the sun will rise as usual. After leaving, I traveled to many places and took plenty of pictures of the scenery, sending them to her from time to time. She wasn't satisfied. She insisted on seeing pictures of me. She also demanded a video call every night. During our calls, she was either working late at the office and resting her face on the desk until she went limp as a blob of slime, or curled up under the covers in my jacket. After saying a couple of words, she'd bury her face in it and take a sniff. She looked utterly intoxicated. It was bizarre beyond words. I knew she was expressing her displeasure, but I'd already started taking medicine. If I went back, she'd see through me immediately. So I had to pretend I was still traveling around and deceive her. After only a week, my body could no longer keep up. The system had clearly said I had another month. Yet after just 1 week, I was already this week. I had no choice but to take a coach back to B-City. Shen Buyu and I had lived together in B-City for 6 years, then spent another 6 years in a city. For someone like me, who had entered a novel, B-City was practically home. I came back for no other reason than to return to my roots. I rented a room with cash and paid a full month's rent up front. I also asked the landlord to leave 3 meals outside my door every day. I made the bed and laid out my clothes. I messaged Shen Buyu. I'm preparing to go abroad. The signal overseas is bad, so I might be out of touch for a while. Don't miss your daddy too much. She replied with a middle finger emoji. Then she sent a 60-second voice messages. A call came in right away, just as I answered. She angrily hung up. The second call went the same way. She hung up the instant it connected. What a mischievous girl. I could only keep messaging her. Don't overwork yourself. Go to bed early. Eat on time, and eat plenty of vegetables. Take good care of yourself while I'm gone. She replied. Got it. You big idiot. Thanks you. A tongue-out emoji followed. I stared at the screen with a goofy grin, then felt like an idiot for grinning. I deliberately put on a stern face, but I couldn't keep it up for long. It was all Shen Buyu's fault. She kept lowering my standards for what I found funny. As I looked at her reply, I remembered the afternoon I first met her. She was only 12 then. She wore several tattered, ill-fitting garments, washed nearly white. Her short hair was dripping wet, and sleep crusted the corners of her eyes. The scars on her hands stood out. She was sallow and painfully thin. Her face was tiny, making her eyes look astonishingly large. A noose was still looped around her neck. Her biological parents held the other end. This fictional world had no functioning laws, and no police to deal with something like this. I knew how absurd it was, but I had no choice except to ask the price myself. The supposedly honest couple exchanged a glance. Sir, if you like her, take her for 30,000. I haggled them down to 19,800, leaving only 200 in my pocket. At last, I took her away. I spent 20 yuan on a room at a nearby inn and bought 8 steamed pork buns, 3 for me and 5 for her. She stuffed them into her mouth, barely chewing. When she finished, she tugged at my sleeve and whispered that she wanted more. Juice from the buns covered her mouth, but she was too busy to wipe it away. First, tell me, what's your name? Her eyes shifted as she answered timidly. Shen Buyu. My heart softened, and I bought her a bowl of noodles. Whether she was bathing, changing clothes, or going to sleep, she obediently let me wash and dress her. Apart from her tragic past, wasn't this child surprisingly easy to raise? Then she ran away in the night. If I hadn't needed the bathroom in the middle of the night, I might not have noticed until the next morning. I searched the surrounding area, but it was pitch black outside, and I could barely see the road. Unable to find her, I could only return to the inn through the back door. Just as I reached the back door, I heard a white cat yowling in a green trash bin. Something rustled inside. I lifted the lid and nearly died from the stench. Shen Buyu was crouched inside, several rotten leaves stuck to her head. She stared at me while picking up and eating the vegetable scraps. You're something else. I gave her a thumbs up. Rotten leaves still clung to her shoulders and hair. She simply stared at me and continued eating the leaves. After that, she ran away 3 more times, and I brought her back each time. I was numb from chasing after her, but I was afraid bad people would abduct her, so I had to keep looking after her. Not long after her 3rd escape, she got soaked in the rain and developed a high fever. I took 2 days off work and followed the pharmacy doctor's instructions, cramming on how to care for a child. I memorized everything she could and couldn't eat. First, I gave her fever medicine. When she woke, I bought rice porridge and tofu. Then I fed her 1 bite at a time. She looked weakly at me for a long time, before suddenly asking in a hoarse voice, "Why are you so good to me?" I didn't know how to answer, so I simply shoved the spoon into her mouth. Just eat 1 bite, and you'll stop talking. After she recovered, she really did stop running away. She only told me very seriously, "I won't run away. Wait until I'm a little older, then you can have me." Her words made my brain crash on the spot. So this was why she kept running away. She had been treating me as someone just like her parents. I thought our personalities simply didn't mesh. My face grew hot with anger. Don't worry, I'm not interested in little girls. Just looking at her gives me a headache. I hurried to send her to school. This really was a fictional world. At 12, despite having barely attended primary school, she placed in the top 10 on the middle school entrance exam. Wow. No wonder she's the villain. She was born with cheat codes. They weren't even pretending. The days passed one after another. Once my job was stable, I rented a room and gradually furnished it piece by piece. My salary wasn't high, but it covered our living expenses. I could even save a little, barely. Sometimes I collected empty bottles and waste paper boxes to supplement our income. A good haul could sell for 50 or 60 yuan, which was just enough for a small hamburger and a few books for her. Shen Buyu only took 2 bites of the hamburger each time. The rest was mine. I loved hamburgers. They were delicious. She loved reading. She enjoyed books on economics, culture, and art, usually apart from running and exercising at the park, and collecting recyclables along the way. She studied diligently beneath her desk lamp. Our home was small, but it had a desk lamp, a desk, and a chair. She studied late into the night. I sat quietly beside the bed, carefully reading the book she had finished. Then I prepared powdered milk for her and made her a nutritious midnight snack. When we slept, she had to take the inside spot. She was young, and I was afraid she'd fall out of bed. Whenever she objected, I simply shoved her back inside. Though she bit me often, I still thought, TSS, it doesn't hurt. As time went by, she went from middle school to high school, and from her first year to graduation, Shen Buyu grew taller and older. Her face and body gradually filled out. One hand could no longer cradle her entire face. Her skin was so soft and delicate, it looked as if I could squeeze water from it. Her personality changed from cold and withdrawn to optimistic and gentle, aside from occasionally acting a little crazy or silently staring into the distance. Everything else about her was perfectly normal. I was always proud. I felt I'd taken good care of her. For her coming-of-age celebration at 18, I bought a large 10-inch cake. It wasn't because I was generous. It was my first time buying a cake, and I had no idea how cake sizes work. I had simply bought one that was too big. In the past, on our birthdays, we only had longevity noodles with sausage, eggs, and chicken legs. For once, I decided to splurge. I hadn't expected to go completely overboard. When Shen Buyu saw the cake, she gazed at me with a beaming smile. I knew that expression of hers all too well. The back of my neck instantly turned cold. That's a lot. What is this? My last supper. Will there be no next meal after this one? Say something. I shuddered in fear. I'm just wishing you a happy birthday and happy adulthood. She stared at me for a long time, until I grew uncomfortable under her gaze. Before finally looking away, she sighed and let her shoulders droop in resignation. That's true. It's time. Buy me a bottle of liquor. I need some courage. I didn't understand what birthdays had to do with courage, but she was the birthday girl, so she had the final say. So, what was there to say? I bought it. I came back with half a kilogram of Buyu. Buyu froze for a moment, then threw herself onto the bed. She kicked off her slippers and buried her face in the pillow, laughing so hard her whole body shook. She shook her head wildly against the pillow until tears streamed down her face. I'd never seen her this happy. When she finished laughing, she wiped away her tears. Fang's you're adorable. She lay on her stomach and beckoned me over. Before I could react, she held the back of my neck down and bit me hard enough to leave a painful mark. Her leg swayed gently behind her. Her grip was gentle, but gave me no chance to pull away. After biting me, she asked, "Does it hurt?" "Wow. Are you a dog?" Her expression instantly darkened. I immediately changed my answer. "TSS. It doesn't hurt. Do you want to sleep together?" Even an idiot should have understood this time. I thought about it for a moment and smiled instead. "No. Save it for someone you love someday." After speaking, I brushed the bridge of her nose and pulled a silly face at her. "Happy birthday, Buyu. Learn to love yourself." She smiled again. Sunlight fell across her face, as if gilding her entire body. I didn't accept her offer. It wasn't because I hadn't understood her feelings. She had only just become an adult. She had once placed all her sense of security entirely in me. I wanted her to learn to love herself first, before deciding who to entrust the rest of her life to. A gentle breeze stirred her hair. She closed her eyes and tilted her face toward the sun outside the window. 2 tears silently slipped down her cheeks. The sunlight was brilliant that day, and she smiled like she was glowing. Now, only 2 weeks had passed. I brushed my teeth in front of the mirror. My face was already covered in wrinkles. Half my hair had turned white, and even my teeth were beginning to loosen. I shaved off my graying beard and tittied myself up properly. Even if I was old, I still had to be a high-quality human male. These past few days, I was afraid people would notice something strange, so I stayed hidden indoors. I even removed the SIM card from my phone. My conversation with Buyu had stopped days ago. The person in the mirror looked more unfamiliar every day. White hair, wrinkles, and loose teeth all reminded me that the month the system had given me was no joke. I didn't dare video call her, much less let her hear how weak my voice was becoming. I told her I was going abroad. She replied that she'd make me pay when I came back. How thoughtful of her. She was even offering me fruit. Hamburgers would have been even better. I couldn't stand being cooped up any longer. I put on a mask and sunglasses and slowly made my way with a cane to that familiar park. The place was much the same as it had been 6 years ago. The concrete paths and lawns had been renovated and were much cleaner. A few people jogged along the track. Children chased one another, laughing and playing. I drew in a deep breath. Damn, the scent of youth was unbelievably sweet. I sat on a bench and watched the lively scene. As I watched, my head slowly drooped, and I drifted off without realizing it. The dream was hazy and unsteady. It reached the deepest part of my memories. I returned to my childhood. I had never seen my father. My mother raised me alone. She could sew, wash clothes, stir fry, and cook. It seemed there was nothing she couldn't do. I, on the other hand, only knew how to raid birds' nests, use a slingshot, and fight. I wore a cheeky grin every day. She always put on a stern face and scolded me with a frown. But once the lecture was over, I let it go in one ear and out the other, and continued doing whatever I pleased. She couldn't keep track of my schoolwork, but every night, she patiently taught me practical skills like doing laundry and cooking. If I ever got lazy, she really would teach me a lesson with a bamboo ruler. She even soaked the ruler in salt water, so it could disinfect as it struck. On the day I turned 11, she suddenly came to school and dragged me home. She bathed me herself and dressed me in new clothes I'd never worn. Then she took me out for the first great meal of my life, a family-sized burger meal. I only cared about stuffing my face. I had no idea why she kept watching me. My mother, thin as a skeleton, didn't touch a bite. She only sat across from me, watching with loving eyes. Ketchup and fries fell onto my pants. She didn't scold me. She only brushed off my pant leg and pushed the last hamburger toward me. "Eat up. It won't taste good once it gets cold." Back then, I didn't know that my skeletal mother would become a mount on the mountain the very next day. The day she died began like any other. She personally walked me to school. But just before I left, she suddenly called me back. "Son, eat properly, sleep well, and take good care of yourself." Those became the last words she ever left me. The next time I saw my mother, she had already been placed inside a small wooden box. She had once been so big, yet now she was curled inside such a tiny box. I stood there blankly, watching her entire burial. The funeral procession was crowded and noisy, yet I felt as if I were standing alone in an empty field. I couldn't hear anything or see anything clearly. Time seemed to stand still. I stood with my mouth open, unable to speak. I wanted to cry, but not a single tear would fall. Not until the soft earth completely covered the box did my body suddenly begin to tremble. All the grief I'd held back came rushing in and nearly tore my soul in two. At last, I cried out in heartbroken anguish. Again and again, I called, "Mom." From that day on, I grew up all at once. I was never naughty again, and I began to love hamburgers because they always reminded me of my mother. I would eat well, sleep well, and take care of myself so she could rest easy. After that, I lived in an orphanage in the real world for another 5 years. After my 16th birthday, I left to find work. Before long, I was hit and killed by a car. Well, dead was dead. What else could I do? I never expected to end up inside a novel. I thought I'd see my mother after closing my eyes. But I met the system and Shen first. Shen had been a model student since childhood, and the good girl in her neighbor's eyes. She was clever and hardworking, but growing up in such a barren, suffocating place. How could she truly have been a pure white flower? When she was little, she could coldly watch sick cats and dogs die by the roadside. When an injured bird fell from a branch, she would hide it in her palm, while wondering whether it could be roasted and eaten. Yet whenever someone was nearby, she could redden her eyes and shed tears in under 2 seconds. She had turned her smile into a mask. When she was young, I could still tell what was real and what was fake. But as she grew older, I understood her less and less. Toward those she hated, she never made her revenge obvious. She always advanced it layer by layer in the shadows. A year and a half ago, one of the company's projects happened to be in her parents' village. I traced the project results back and learned that she had already completed her revenge. Her methods had been ruthless yet meticulous, leaving no evidence behind. That was also the most recent time she and I had fallen out. I visited the village that morning and had only just returned to a city that afternoon when she urgently summoned me to the company. She had graduated only 6 months earlier, yet had already built a sizable company. Shen sat in the broad chair behind the chairman's desk. Broad shadows from the floor-to-ceiling windows covered half her face. Her polished, practiced smile held a chilling undertone. Her eyes were cold as ice. Fang's you. About what happened with Fang Zhang. Do you think I did the right thing? I walked over and took her hand, then wiped it against my suit. Little Shen, I haven't experienced your suffering, so I have no right to ask you to forgive them. Not every memory is sweet, and not every hurt can be forgiven. But I still hope you won't let those people dirty your hands. She was silent for a long time before finally lowering her guard. She rested her head against my stomach, her voice muffled. Don't betray me. Fang's you. You're the only one I dare trust. I gently brushed her nose. Silly girl, where are you touching? Put your hand down. I smacked my lips and jolted awake, staring blankly around me. People in the park were still singing, dancing, and rapping. Everyone was cheerful and carefree. Human joys and sorrows truly never meet. The park was filled with happiness, while I stared blankly at my toes, feeling utterly alone. They continued singing and dancing as usual, never knowing that an old man wearing a mask and sunglasses had just buried his mother all over again in a dream. For the following week, I went to that park almost every day, not for some profound reason, but simply because it made me feel a little better. Shen had run in this park for 6 years. The grass turned green, then yellow, then green again. This place held too many of our memories. I couldn't let them go, nor could I throw them away. By the 4th week, it had become difficult to stay conscious. My phone's photo album was filled with pictures of us together. It also held photos of her from childhood to adulthood. I changed phones several times, but never lost a single photo of her, not her first picture, nor the snapshots we took whenever we moved. I transferred them one by one from each old phone to the next. Whenever I lay in bed, my consciousness was hazy, caught between sleep and waking. Memories from the past surfaced one after another. Her first award certificate, her first smile, her first tears, my first tears and my first hamburger, and the first time I met the system, all blurred together. When the system first spoke to me, I thought I had encountered some evil spirit. It ordered me to save the young villain, Shen, and told me part of the story. Once I began my new life in a daze, it fell silent. It didn't return until Shen 16th birthday. The system appeared again, as my reward for caring for the villain for 4 years. It could create a new body for me in the real world, and let me return to live again. I looked at Shen, who was studying diligently. I couldn't help feeling that she was as pitiful as I had once been. Could you let me stay a few more years? At least until she could live independently. The system answered casually. Sure, the plot has already been changed anyway. Staying another 7 or 8 years won't matter. All I have to do is nod, and I can leave. But when I looked at 16-year-old Shen, I couldn't bring myself to abandon her. That decision kept me there for 8 full years. If it hadn't suddenly appeared again a month ago, I might have forgotten that I was supposed to leave. It never spoke again during those 8 years. I truly came to think of myself as a person from this world. But staying for so long came at a price. Within a month, I would rapidly age from a young man and eventually die. It wasn't painful. I just became dizzy easily. Each day, I stayed conscious for less time. When the system appeared again a month ago, all I could do was arrange my departure and try to keep Shen from being hurt too badly. The system also forbade me from telling anyone anything about crossing into this world. What I feared most was that stubborn, obsessive Shen would completely break down after my death. What could I do? I could only keep it from her. First, I lied and made her leave, then gradually reduced contact. Once we were far enough apart for long enough, our feelings would eventually fade. Then, even if she later learned that I had been buried, perhaps she wouldn't be hurt so deeply. I had only 2 days left to live. I dreamed more and more often, and stayed awake less and less. My hair turned completely white. Most of my teeth fell out. The skin on my body became wrinkled, like an old monkey nearing death. I was truly hideous, but I couldn't even turn over in bed. I could only accept that I was about to kick the bucket. Strangely, those scattered dreams allowed me to see my whole life clearly. I had been busy and poor, and had found joy in the midst of hardship. At least I knew why I had lived. I knew I had pulled a child out of the mud, instead of drifting mindlessly to the end. In a daze, I heard the door open. Several people in black walked in. The group parted, and a tall figure approached the bed. She carried a familiar scent of perfume. Fang's you. How did you end up like this? Shen Bai's voice trembled. She ordered everyone out and sat down beside the bed. She tucked the covers around me. Her eyes were clearly red, but she forced her voice to remain calm. I heard that stray cats and dogs, when they're near death, secretly hide in corners. How could you be like them? I forced the corners of my mouth upward. Shen Bai, do you believe in the light? I do. Back then, I suddenly appeared by your side, and now everything is at peace. So it's time for me to go. Are you an angel? No. I'm Spider-Man. I laughed like an idiot. Forgive me. I really don't have the energy for anything elaborate anymore. So, I can only put on this little show for you. Whatever you face in the future, you must be happy every day. You were also a child who grew up loved. You're no worse than anyone else. She didn't say another word, and only kept wiping away her tears. I didn't know how she had found me here, and had no strength left to ask. But the people she brought had opened the door directly, which meant my supposedly foolproof arrangements had already been thoroughly uncovered. Going abroad and cutting off contact, and renting a place for a month, hadn't survived even the slightest scrutiny. I was lucky. During the last 2 days of my life, the person I loved most could still stay by my side. She cooked the rice porridge until it was completely soft, and fed it to me one tiny spoonful at a time. Then she carried me downstairs, and walked step by step to the park to see the scenery. She personally slipped a silver white ring onto my finger. She deliberately pouted, while tears kept falling. I had once imagined that, after we married, we would buy a villa and fill it with our wedding photos. I would run around the house every day wearing your clothes. We would grow old together. If I could, I would want to leave before you. That way, when I was lying in bed, you would hold my hand, with our children gathered around us. You'd surely make a miserable spectacle of yourself crying in front of them. Then I could keep stroking your head. She lowered her head and stared at the ring. Thanks you. I'll put it on your finger. Does that mean we're married now? I really want to grow old with you. I wiped away her tears, but no matter how much I wiped, they wouldn't stop. Several more photos appeared in the phone's album. Some showed laughter, some tears, some sweetness, and some pain. Together, they became proof that we had grown up. I wanted to tell her that I hadn't truly disappeared, but was only returning to another world. But the system blocked even those words. Shen Bio, I have to. Actually, Damn you, you rotten system. Bleep. Bleep, bleep. Just wait, system. We still have an offline cage fight to settle. When the sun rose on my final day, I forced myself to stay awake and lectured her on everything from eating and sleeping to dealing with people. I rambled on for a long time. I was always afraid she wouldn't take care of herself, no matter how old she became. In my eyes, she would still be a child who didn't know how to care for herself. I was conscious for a while that morning, then slipped into a daze at noon. I barely opened my eyes again by evening. I asked Shen Bayu to carry me to the park. I leaned against a large tree. Little birds chirped in its branches. Several butterflies fluttered around the flowers. The evening breeze rustled the leaves. The sunset clouds on the horizon slowly turned golden. Leaning against the trunk, I watched her stand before the familiar track. This was where she had run countless times before. For 6 long years, she had grown up along that same path. Now I only wanted to see it one more time, to make sure she truly had the strength to keep moving forward. Shen Bayu, can you run one more time like you used to? She ran toward the fading sunset, faster and faster. Her long black hair streamed freely behind her. I watched her run and run, as if she were running all the way from childhood into adulthood. She had run from being a pitiful little girl into a tall, graceful young woman. The skinny child and the graceful woman before me slowly overlapped in my eyes. It was wonderful. She had grown up. A white butterfly landed among the lush leaves. It spread its beautiful wings. I thought Shen Bayu deserved to be free like that butterfly. She shouldn't remain trapped in the cocoon of her past. She should go see the flowers, the grass, and every beautiful view along the way. Even if despair and confusion remained, she had to keep moving forward with determination. My vision grew increasingly blurred. My upturned head slowly drooped. Fang's you. He came running back, gasping for breath. He seized my groping hand and pressed his cheek against my withered fingers. Shen Bayu, I'm leaving. From now on, eat and sleep on schedule. Take good care of yourself. You're still young. You still have a long road ahead. Don't lose your reason to grief. And don't let hatred blind you. If you can, find someone else to love. You don't have to wait for me forever. My life was filled with pain and confusion, but because of you, even that bitter journey gained sweetness and color. In my eyes, you are simply you, forever one of a kind. A cold drop of water fell onto my forehead. I thought it had started to rain, until I heard her sobs growing louder and louder. They were tears. She wailed like a child, and couldn't form a complete sentence through her sobs. She clutched my hand, and rubbed her cheek over each withered finger again and again. Yet her sobs seemed farther and farther away. The last glimmer in my vision faded completely. All my strength left me. The past flashed before me like a carousel. First came my hard-working, capable mother. Then Shen Buyu, who used to climb onto me and play when she was little. And long Aotian, wild and carefree. In the end, only I remained. Fang, who looked ordinary, whose life was cursed with bad luck, but who never forgot how to be optimistic. That familiar lullaby sounded in my ears again. This time, Shen Buyu sang it to me through her tears. Raindrops fall, drip by drip, as we sing a joyful song. Da la da, da 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 la, da da la la, da da la, da da la, da la. The song continued, but her voice kept breaking between sobs. The system displayed one final line. Achievement unlocked. Is it really over? The screen flickered again, and another sentence appeared beneath it. When Fang died, his body was small and shriveled. He was terribly ugly, and Shen Buyu was so grief-stricken she nearly went mad. She held him tightly and refused to let go. Her body shook like a leaf, her teeth clenched tight. Only uncontrollable whimpers escaped her throat. As the body in her arms slowly grew cold, she finally broke down. She called his name over and over, until the medical staff forcibly pulled them apart. Only then did she realize she had completely lost control. She stared blankly as Fang was wheeled into the crematorium and reduced to a handful of ashes that were placed in a small box. She forced herself not to rush forward and could only follow behind the funeral procession as they carried the box up the mountain, step by step. Such a big person, and in the end, only this little remained. The mourners covered the top of the box with yellow earth. He was buried in B City, returning at last to his roots, becoming a small mound halfway up the mountain. The two of them had shared only 12 years of life above ground, but Fang would remain beneath it forever. Shen Buyu's heart died in B City with him. She was actually reborn. In her previous life, she had been running ever since childhood. Her parents, for a little over 10,000 yuan, sold her to a man in his 50s. She would rather die than submit, so they locked her in a pigsty for an entire year. A year later, she climbed out and ran for 3 straight days across several mountains. She ate wild fruit when hungry and drank dew when thirsty. Only then did she finally reach B City. There was an orphanage there, and people watching her with bad intentions. Even though she was little more than skin and bone, people still wanted to prey on her. To protect herself, she had no choice but to destroy the left half of her face with scissors. On her 16th birthday, she fled B City again. She worked while traveling and eventually went to a city. After working for 2 years and saving some capital, she started a business. Over the next 16 years, she failed several times and fell more than 10 million yuan into debt on 5 occasions. She was forced to move from place to survive, but endured every hardship. In the end, she became a prominent figure in the business world. She took revenge on most of her enemies and forged a heart no one could easily shake. In her previous life, it took her several years just to gain a precarious foothold in a city. In this life, with her knowledge of the future and her own abilities, she built a business empire in just 2 years. That success, visible to everyone, didn't erase the memories of her escape, disfigurement, and crushing debts. But she trusted her ally Bai Ningbing too much. During her final battle with Long Aotian, Bai Ningbing joined forces with the powerful clans and stabbed her in the back. She lost everything and ultimately died at that cliff. When she was reborn at 12, Shen Buyu was prepared to walk through hell all over again. But before the suffering came Fang. That beam of light suddenly shone into her world, so brightly she could barely keep her eyes open. He hugged and encouraged her, carrying her everywhere in search of doctors. Though he clearly craved the hamburger, he pretended not to care and left most of it for her. He picked meat from dishes for her, mended her clothes, and tucked her into bed. Whenever she disobeyed, he never stopped nagging. Shen Buyu's attachment to him. After she turned 18, her attachment took on a romantic edge. She loved everything about Fang, his voice, his features, and his skin. She even liked most of the foods he had eaten, except green peppers. She could distinguish the smell of sweat on Fang's from the scent of laundry detergent on his clothes. She was like someone on the verge of drowning, who had seized the only thing within reach, and only wanted to keep Fang's by her side forever. Her attachment was far from gentle. She watched Fang's every move, and grew anxious whenever he wanted to leave. She even planned in advance how to bind their relationship permanently. She knew her soul was far from pure, but she couldn't bear to hurt this light that had shone into her life. So after Fang's left on his trip, she had already begun preparing a proposal. The ring, wedding dress, and suit were all arranged. The chances of Fang's proposing first were slim. So, she would do it herself. She activated the tracker she had installed in Fang's phone long ago. She had planned to fly overseas and surprise him, but the location on the screen was stationary in B City. In that moment, even battle-hardened Shen was stunned. Everything that happened next turned her into a loveless orphan once more. She stayed in B City for 20 days and didn't return to her villa in a city until she was 24. At night, she still slept in Fang's room, just as she had at 18. She wrapped herself in the blankets that still carried his scent. She was suspicious, insecure, and always cold. She used to sleep only when pressed tightly against Fang's. If he refused, she clung to him stubbornly. If that didn't work, she pretended to cry. Whenever she cried, he always softened. Those tricks worked only on Fang's. After a while, she took out the phone with its SIM card removed and breathed in its lingering scent before opening the photo album. It contained photos of the two of them together, as well as portraits Fang's had taken of her. Looking at their smiles in the photos, she found herself smiling too. She tossed and turned until midnight before finally falling asleep. In her dream, Fang's made tomato and scrambled eggs for her every day and married her. They had noisy children, and she found them annoying. When she rolled around on the bed, Fang's resignedly picked her up and soothed her like a child. Even when they were old, if she grew tired and sat by the roadside, all she had to do was open her arms, and Fang's would carry her home, just as he had when they were young. It was clearly a happy dream, yet she grew colder the longer she slept. Tears continued to stream from her eyes. She pulled the blankets tighter around herself and slowly curled into a ball, but the fear in her heart grew heavier and heavier. The Fang's in her dream became the man from the last day of his life once more. He leaned beneath the great tree, while the wind gently stirred his white hair. The sunset grew brighter and brighter until it swallowed the entire dream. Shen jolted awake. Morning light fell across her haggard face. The dream was gone. She simply found herself craving Fang's tomato and scrambled eggs. Before long, Ningbing took the initiative and asked to discuss a business deal. The pampered heiress had just graduated from college and knew nothing about business. Yet the moment they met, she arrogantly proposed, buying Shen his parent company at a low price. Shen naturally refused. Ningbing flew into a rage. She cursed Shen and her parents, then sneered, "Miss Shen, an unwanted orphan like you should consider it a blessing that you managed to build such a large company. The fact that I took an interest in your company means your ancestors must have been smiling on you. At my command, who in the industry would dare help you? The fact that I'm still willing to pay you is already more than generous. Other than that loyal dog named Fang, who would help you? But didn't he just die?" Shen smiled instead and spread her hands. "All right, Miss Bai. Since that's the case, I still have 3 subsidiaries. I'll sell all 3 to you at a discount. How about it?" "That's more like it," Ningbing muttered. "People really are cheap at heart." After the contract was signed, Shen smiled brightly as she shook hands with her former enemy. "May you get off to a flying start, Miss Bai, and may wealth pour in." Her eyes narrowed, her smile deeper than anyone could fathom. 3 years later, when Shen saw Long Aotian again in her office, the one surrogate Bai family was already on the brink of collapse. Ningbing had suffered devastating losses. Shen had also been striking at a city's major families from the shadows, leaving everyone terrified for their own survival. Ningbing had only $1 million left in liquid assets, with nowhere else to turn. She could only seek Long Aotian's help. Long Aotian had no idea how powerful Shen had become, and could only urge her to stop while she was ahead. 3 years had passed, and she had grown much thinner. Faint dark circles shadowed her eyes. Dressed in a women's suit, she still sat perfectly straight. A madwoman with nothing to lose could do whatever she pleased. "Please leave." Long Aotian grew anxious. "The Bai family is almost finished. She has paid the price too. Why are you still attacking the other families? Thousands of employees have already lost their jobs. The remaining families will join forces and strike back. Mercy has no place in command. As for those families, let them come." Shen unconsciously touched the ring on her left ring finger. "They're nothing but a rabble of schemers. A few blows will send them scattering. Those are the 8 great families. Even 8 pigs would be dangerous enough to avoid. Fangs, you took such good care of you. Are you really going to throw yourself into danger like this? Her face instantly turned cold. You needn't worry about me. If Fangs, you hadn't wanted us to reconcile, I would have dealt with you too. She already controlled resources both inside and outside the city, and had gathered allies of her own. Now, she truly lacked nothing. After sending Long Aotian away, she went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. Her reflection in the mirror looked increasingly haggard, but an unmistakable madness smoldered in her eyes. The suffering of her past life and the malice in people's hearts, along with the image of Fang Zhu suddenly dying of old age, flashed through her mind again and again. Since this world was willing to offer her nothing but malice, then these people would not escape her, not a single one. As Long Aotian looked back on his previous life, he found it absurd as well. He was born in Sea City, near B City. He lost his mother as a child, and his father at 16. He was so poor he couldn't even afford funeral expenses. Fortunately, someone reached out to help. He had always believed he was the hero of his era. Yet by 30, after all his struggle, he was only a coffee shop manager. He wasn't highly educated, and had no romantic experience either. His looks were rugged, but in an age filled with pale, slender, pretty boys, he couldn't exactly make anyone's heart race. At 30, he decided to start a business again. Unexpectedly, everything went smoothly from then on. By 34, he had become a successful entrepreneur and was secretly pursued by Ningbing, heir to the Bai family. At 35, he was forced to compete with Shen and was thoroughly outmatched almost from start to finish. Without Ningbing and the powerful families secretly supporting him, he wouldn't have lasted even a few months. During the final battle, Ningbing joined the other families and stabbed Shen in the back again, leaving her utterly defeated. The last time Long Aotian saw Shen was at a cliff. In her previous life, she was short, hunched, and pitifully thin. Her left cheek was covered in scars she had carved into it herself, but her eyes remained sharp. Long Aotian stopped the bodyguards and asked her, "Why must we fight until one of us dies? Can't you feel how beautiful this world is?" Shen stared at him for a long time, then suddenly burst out laughing. "Losing to you is my greatest humiliation. Those people betrayed me faster than I ever imagined. Once they've finished carving out my piece of the pie, you won't be far from being abandoned either." With that, she drank the poison and leaped from the cliff. After Shen Bai's death, Long Aotian had no opponents left. He married Ningbing and spent another 7 years becoming the head of the business world. But his company, capital, and technology were all firmly controlled by the powerful families. On the surface, he was admired by thousands, but in reality, he couldn't approve even a 100,000 yuan order. Everything had to be reported up through the ranks to Ningbing. He had endless money, yet felt trapped in a vast net, unable to move. Looking back, what he missed most was the dinner table from his elementary school days, when both his parents were still alive, and the days when he managed a coffee shop. As a child, his mother hummed while doing housework, and his father urged him to grab his school bag and head to class. Those ordinary days of meals and daily life had actually been the happiest time of all. As a manager, he had time of his own. He could make the coffee he loved and drink it slowly, while enjoying the view outside the window. But Ningbing cared only whether he was the business world's number one and how much benefit he could bring the family. She never cared whether he was tired. Later, he even heard that his wife often secretly visited hotels with male models. Long Aotian considered divorce and hesitated for several months, but was poisoned at home first. He collapsed in the living room and asked with difficulty, "Why?" Ningbing replied coldly, "I heard you wanted a divorce. Divorce would cost me half our fortune. If I became a widow, I wouldn't have to give up anything. In all these years, did you ever love me for even one day?" She smiled tenderly. "Darling, of course I love your money and your glory. I love them both beyond reason." The light in Long Aotian's eyes went out completely. "My people found out that you bought poison yesterday. I didn't want to believe it was meant for me. So my people are all waiting outside. Someone as deranged as you can't be allowed to corrupt our innocent children. Since you really did it, then we'll leave this world together." That was how his ridiculous previous life ended. When he opened his eyes again, Long Aotian was 16 once more and met Fang Zhu, who had come to Sea City on business. Fang Zhu paid his father's funeral expenses and bought him a meal. He helped him several more times afterward. A month after being reborn, Long Aotian was still lost. When Fang Zhu came to see him again, he asked casually, "Brother Zhu, do you think I should make some money?" Fang Zhu burst out laughing. "Do you even have the ability? And you're already dreaming of making money? What nonsense are you talking about, kid? You don't believe me. I'm more capable than you think. I'd sooner believe you were blessed with incredible luck than believe some young kid could make a fortune right now." Long Aotian bristled. Fang Zhu ruffled his hair and called him stubborn. The two of them traded words back and forth, until Fang Zhu finally grew serious. "Doing what you love is more meaningful than only chasing money. You're still young, and you have more room to make mistakes than you think. Don't let money turn you into a slave again. Freedom is the most precious thing in life. Aotian acted on his words immediately. He saved for 3 years to open a shop, but his first venture ended in complete disaster. Even then, he didn't give up. 2 years later, he opened another shop, and this time it finally began to thrive. He went on to open more than a dozen branches. When Fang called again and invited him to his city, he was already a moderately famous coffee shop owner in Sea City. What he hadn't expected was that the person Fang wanted him to meet was Shen Buyu. In this life, Shen Buyu was tall, refined, elegant, and composed. There wasn't a scar on her left cheek. Fang had truly taken excellent care of her. At Fang Shu's insistence, the two could only shake hands and make peace. Aotian had expected her to make a move in secret, but nothing happened. Only then did he realize that Fang had quietly changed the world. After that meeting, Fang called Aotian several more times. He asked, both directly and indirectly, what exactly had happened between Aotian and Shen Buyu. Aotian couldn't tell him that he had been reborn, and could only keep silent. Unable to get an answer, Fang changed to a tone that was almost pleading. If Shen Buyu ever runs into trouble, I hope you can help her. He made 3 or 4 calls like that. Aotian was even a little envious. He envied Shen Buyu, because someone was thinking so far ahead about her future. But when he heard news of Fang again, a month later, it was news of his death. The message came from Shen Buyu, sent on Fang phone. Aotian thought it over for a long time, and made sure it wasn't a trap. Before going to Be City to pay his respects, Shen Buyu had even bought the mountainside, and arranged for guards to watch over the entire estate. Aotian had never seen her look so broken. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were vacant. She looked like her soul had left her body. He offered her a bouquet of yellow and white chrysanthemums, and gently patted her left shoulder. My condolences. Shen Buyu ignored him. Half an hour later, she finally rasped, you can go now. Aotian walked about 50 meters away, but couldn't stop himself from turning back and shouting, President Shen, brothers you loves you. Don't do anything foolish. Her shoulders trembled faintly in the distance, as if she were crying again. 3 years later, Shen Buyu launched an all-out war against the powerful families. Aotian didn't want to fail Fang Shu's final request, and was so anxious that he had no time even to make coffee. Then Ningbing came to him for help as well. In this life, he only ran coffee shops in Sea City, and had absolutely nothing to do with the business war in a city. He had no idea why Ningbing treated him as her last hope. Even while asking for help, she acted superior, and complained that his coffee tasted awful. Aotian was so furious he nearly threw her out, cup and all. Ningbing said she had only seen Aotian in a dream. When she woke, she simply felt certain he could help her. From that alone, he knew she hadn't been reborn. Aotian had his staff escort her out, then took a 5-hour high-speed train to A City to find Shen Buyu. Instead, Shen Buyu had her people throw him out too. He sat dejectedly by the roadside, and hadn't been staring blankly for long, when a group of richly dressed young people suddenly surrounded him, and cheered as they escorted him into the Buyu family's council hall. It made no sense at all, and had no logic whatsoever. His father-in-law from his previous life had merely looked at him once, before announcing that he would succeed him as head of the Buyu family, even though he wasn't a Buyu at all. Cheers immediately erupted from below the stage. Aotian finally managed to interrupt them. Hold on, guys. Do you even know me? No. The old patriarch grasped his hand and asked, tell us, hero, what's your name? Aotian. Now we know you. He raised that hand high, and everyone began chanting his name. Wait, I'm just a coffee maker. The old patriarch smiled. Our new patriarch can make coffee too. Everyone, show him some support. The cheers grew louder and louder, as if an invisible hand were forcing him higher and higher. The next day, the other 7 families arrived as well, and jointly appointed him leader of the powerful families. The day before, he had owned more than a dozen coffee shops. Now he was head of the 8 powerful families. Everyone wore an irrationally fanatical expression, and even the families' years of conflict suddenly vanished. Anything Aotian said that benefited the families was treated like a divine decree. But when he tried to stop them from attacking Shen Buyu, no one listened. He finally confirmed that this world was abnormal. They locked him inside a luxurious villa. He refused to become a puppet again, and decided to escape under cover of night. He knocked out 5 guards along the way. The moment he pushed open the estate gates, the grounds behind him suddenly lit up. A crowd came after him carrying flashlights, torches, and pitchforks, with bizarre expressions that mixed tears and laughter, surging toward him like a tidal wave. Aotian kicked off his slippers and sprinted barefoot down the street. Behind him came electric scooters, motorcycles, and even unicycles. Aotian, come back. We can't live without you. He ran all the way to the end of the street, before finally stopping. Shen Buyu stood ahead, with a mass of burly men behind her, each gripping a black baton. She had been preparing to raid the Bai family that very night, which was why she was blocking the end of the street. Long Aotian was so happy he nearly cried. He opened his arms and rushed toward her, but Shen Buyu pulled out a stun baton from behind her back. Oh. He collapsed on the spot, his limbs twitching uncontrollably. Shen Buyu, we're on the same side. She coldly waved to the people behind her. Deal with the people behind us. Someone else. Drag him away. That night, flashes of electricity streaked across the street, and cries of agony filled the air. After carefully reviewing what had happened, the two realized they were like the hero and villain in a novel. Whether they wanted it or not, the world was determined to force them onto opposite sides. Long Aotian refused to accept it, since the powerful families needed him. He locked himself inside Shen Buyu's villa, and had people stand guard outside. He refused to show his face, no matter what. But only a few days later, a typhoon somehow struck in Lande City. The entire roof was blown away, turning the bedroom into an open-air room. Yet Long Aotian, still in bed, was completely unharmed. The same thing happened 3 or 4 times. He pointed at the sky and cursed it thoroughly, then shouted, "If you have the guts, come down and strike me dead." A bolt of lightning struck right then and there. Long Aotian was burned black from head to toe, and coughed a cloud of black smoke from his mouth. He spent a week in a hospital owned by Shen Buyu, but somehow recovered almost completely. Then a tornado tore open the hospital roof again. He immediately ran for his life. With Shen Buyu's help, he shook off the family's pursuers, and fled into a basement. That very night, an earthquake and a tornado tore up the earth together. The basement was exposed to the open air once more. Then a thunderbolt struck him from the crown of his head to his knees. Oh. Long Aotian ended up in the hospital for the second time. He finally couldn't dismiss these events as coincidences. He called Shen Buyu over, and first asked why she had started the war, and what her chances of winning were, and how many people would lose their jobs. Shen Buyu answered, the 8 families had originally kept one another in check. She could have defeated them one by one. But a few weeks ago, they had suddenly become completely united, even risking everything to prop up the collapsing Bai family. As for the people who would lose their jobs, there could be tens of thousands, or nearly 100,000. Long Aotian looked out the window. A tornado was circling near the parking lot, with no one around to help. While everyone treated it as normal, no one cared about the extreme weather. The unemployed had no voice, and the 8 families had united for no reason at all. Fate was like a vast net that trapped everyone on a path they were forced to follow. His experiences in both lives were pushing him to join forces with the powerful families, defeat Shen Buyu, and trade her defeat for wealth and glory. Otherwise, the lightning would keep striking him. But was that really what he wanted? Long Aotian stared at the gray sky and thought for a long time. Then he gave a crooked smile. I don't believe it can truly control everything. I have an idea. This time, he would tear a hole in the net with his own hands. Long Aotian took Shen Buyu to the cliff from his previous life. Do you really think this will work? I'm not sure, but we have to try. Whenever I refuse to follow its demands, it strikes me with lightning. The more it strikes me, the more I refuse to submit. You jumped off the cliff in our previous life. This time, it's my turn. I refuse to believe it can really keep me trapped until I die. Shen Buyu was still hesitating. If you fail, you'll die. Someone has to put an end to all this. I don't want any more innocent people dragged into our conflict. Long Aotian gave a bitter smile. Honestly, I have no other choice. Rather than remain trapped in a cage built by fate, I'd rather make one glorious attempt. Before he could finish, the ground began to tremble. Several small tornadoes appeared out of nowhere in the valley. A dark, imposing mass of people also surged up from the foot of the mountain. Thunder rumbled across the sky, as if warning him to stop. Long Aotian glanced down into the bottomless abyss. His legs immediately went weak. Are you jumping or not? I want to, but my whole body is shaking. It's so high. How did you ever dare to jump last time? They'll be here any second. Long Aotian covered his eyes and charged forward, only to trip over a pebble. Long Aotian, you coward. Quit making snide remarks and kick me off already. He had barely gotten back up when Shen Buyu kicked him off the cliff. His scream had barely faded when a powerful gust carried him back up. One more kick. She charged forward and delivered a flying kick, sending Long Aotian over the edge a second time. But another tornado rose from the bottom of the cliff and swept him into the air. Why am I flying? The arriving crowd pinned Shen Buyu to the ground. Another bolt of lightning struck Long Aotian with perfect accuracy. He had barely cursed when a second bolt struck right after it. He wilted instantly. The tornado carried him slowly back toward the cliff. The crowd below raised their hands, their faces filled with fanatical devotion, wanting to catch him and return him to that magnificent cage. The wind weakened by the second, and he was about to fall into the crowd. Long Aotian suddenly opened his eyes. He stepped on the crowd's hands and shoulders as he fought his way out. When someone grabbed his shoe, he kicked it off. When someone seized his arm, he turned and drove an elbow into them. When someone grabbed his pant leg, he simply tore off his trousers too. He fought desperately to break through the crowd. "Give me freedom or give me death." He pushed off the ground and leaped, while countless hands behind him came within inches, but could no longer reach him. Long Aotian plunged straight down the cliff. The gale sent his tears and snot flying. Even so, he shouted with all his strength, not knowing whether there was any way to survive at the bottom, or whether his death could change anything. But if he surrendered even the freedom to choose how he died, then living this life again would mean nothing more than inhabiting the cage from his previous life. Turn the whole situation around. The crowd pressed down on Shen Buyu until she could barely breathe. She heard Long Aotian's furious roar. Then, light flooded the sky, the ground, the trees, and the grass from every direction. The entire world instantly became an ocean of light. When she opened her eyes again, the sky had returned to its clear blue, with white clouds drifting lazily. The thunderbolts, tornadoes, and those crazed people had all vanished. The bottomless abyss had also become a crystal clear lake. Long Aotian was swimming freestyle in it, and singing loudly and off-key. Only then did Shen Buyu know that his gamble had paid off. The world had failed to return this disobedient protagonist to his assigned place, and had instead been forced to rewrite its rules by his choice. Truly, everything had begun to improve. Shen Buyu stood at the cliff's edge, twisting her fingers as she looked down. The rules are broken, but the person she wanted most was still gone. Just then, a voice she had longed for day and night came from the other side. She looked up in disbelief. A young man in a white tank top and colorful boxer shorts, wearing flip-flops, stood with his back to her, looking around in confusion. "I just went to sleep. How did I end up here? Am I even still in China?" Shen Buyu trembled all over and almost sprang forward. This time, she wasn't running from fear, loss, or despair. She stumbled forward like a child, running toward Fang's, whom she had finally gotten back. "It turned out that after I died, I returned to reality. 3 years later, the world's rules were broken, and I re-entered the novel. I felt as though I had only taken a nap. The moment I opened my eyes, I had been thrown from reality onto a cliff." But for Shen Buyu, those 3 years without me had been all too real. Shen Buyu was now 27. That night, she coaxed me, then threatened me until I followed her into the bedroom. Even at full strength, I was no match for her. The next day, I could barely get out of bed. I asked what had happened during those 3 years. Whenever she heard the question, she tied up her hair and reached out to drag me back into the bedroom. That scared me into never asking again. After several tender days together, we went and got legally married. The wedding was simple, with only a few friends invited, because she disliked big crowds. Long Aotian often came to our house for free meals. Somehow, he and Shen Buyu even became friends. Over meals, they often talked about the downfall of the 8 families. Merchants from outside the city entering a city and creating more jobs. "Do you know Bai Ningbing?" He laughed while eating shrimp. "We go way back. Brothers, you. I got her into every electronics factory she works at now." "Amazing. Then what are these powerful families you keep talking about?" Under the table, Shen Buyu ran a hand over my leg and asked with a mischievous smile, "Want to go to bed together again in broad daylight?" I quickly waved my hands. "Never mind. I won't ask." After dinner, we went out for a walk together. Shen Buyu walked ahead in a long dress, her steps light and carefree. As we walked, she suddenly turned around. "Fang's, do you know what the happiest thing in my life is? Becoming a successful businesswoman. No, being able to do what I love. Not that either." "Then, what could it be?" She stopped, tiny points of light shining in her eyes, her long hair stirring gently in the breeze. "The happiest thing in my life is becoming your wife." I quickly hid half my face inside my collar. "Your ears are red." "No, don't make things up." "How am I supposed to respond when you suddenly say something so unfairly sweet?" She looked me up and down, her smile growing more and more dangerous. 19-year-old Fang's, you really was such a baby. Come on, let's go home." Long Aotian suddenly wailed beside us. "What the hell is wrong with you two? Am I part of this too?" He shouted wildly as he turned and ran. I wanted to run too, but Shen Buyu suddenly lunged at me. Afraid she would fall, I had no choice but to catch her. She clung to me like a sloth, first burying her face against my neck for a sniff, then revealing a sly smile. "I like it. I feel like crying. Can we not go home just yet? I want to walk around a little longer." "No." She held on even tighter, so I could only support her securely, and resignedly